welcome to Meet Me in the Middle. Lindsay and I are so happy to have Elsie Smith with us today. We've been waiting on this interview for how long, Elsie?
We've been trying to plan this for a while.
For a while. So, hey, we are going to jump right in because there's so much great stuff to share, for him to share with us, and we're just really excited for you guys to get to know Elsie Smith. He has started an organization called, well, it's affectionately known as Our Father's M.A.D, which is kind of like an acronym for Real Fathers Making a Difference. So this segment, we're going to kind of go into what all that means. It has to do with mentoring youth, but we're gonna pick it apart and pick his brain, and we're just going to make the most of this opportunity today. We're just really excited about it. So, yeah, I want to start out with a question first, and then Lindsay can pick up after that. But I want to know, what was the seed that was planted in you that said, I want to help, mentor youth? I mean, tell us about your story and how that made an impact on where you are today with mentoring youth. So jump into that one.
Well, a lot of people probably wouldn't believe this, but when I started Real Fathers Making a Difference, it had absolutely nothing to do with kids.
I didn't know that.
There's a couple other interviews out there where I talk about it, but yeah, it had nothing to do with kids. I had started to write a book about the importance of fatherhood. I realized in my circle of friends and people that I knew and associates that most people didn't have their father grow up in their lives from birth on up until, either the father wasn't involved at all, or the father left out of the picture, or either the father came into the picture, later on in life. And it was a pattern that I found, even when you hear people accept awards and celebrities, you hear speak about the fact that the father not being there, and they, in spite of that, they still were successful. And to me, I felt like the dads almost was getting a pass about not being responsible fathers. And I felt like that that's not fair, because if we hear that mother isn't involved, everyone want to know what's wrong with mother. We hear father not involved, we kind of just passive about it and, going about our day. So I wanted to write a book about the importance, because I know that it's important to have both parents, and even with my experience of not having a father figure in my life, as far as having my biological father in my life, even if he was in my life, I still know there's value to a father being in your life. So a mother and a father have a reason, have a purpose in a child's life. So I started to write a book, and I decided that instead of me writing a book, why don't I just go out here and do something about it? So I started the organization, and the goal was to go out and talk to young men about the importance of fatherhood, and to be able to plant seeds to especially let our young men know that a lot of times from us as men, we pat our boys on the back because they have 10 girlfriends, and they grow up thinking that as young men that their goal is to be able to possibly sleep with as many girls as they can, and now you're setting yourself up to probably be a deadbeat father, to produce kids that you're not ready for. So we wanted to have a different conversation that they usually don't have from men. And that the conversation is, for one, abstinence. Why don't we consider that? And also just because a female is willing to have sex with you doesn't mean that you actually have to have sex as well. So to kind of change their mindset when it comes to that aspect, because really being irresponsible in that area is one reason why we probably have a lot of fathers who don't commit, to their kids. So that's kind of what it was about. We started a intervention program to kind of help fathers get back estranged relationships, kind of connect again. So we had created a program where DHR was included, counseling was included, but most of those programs didn't take off. We tried to start a mentoring program for fathers to mentor younger fathers who may have grew up without fathers, like seasoned fathers like myself. But what happened with the youth program was that someone had called me because someone I know she was talking to a coworker, and her son told her that he probably would do better if he had a positive male role model. That was his reason for acting bad in school, for not getting good grades. He may have been manipulating mom. I don't know. He probably didn't figure that mom was going to actually go out and find somebody for him. So, but it just so happened that she was like, I have a friend, and he may be willing to, talk to your son. And they wasn't aware of the organization. So I just basically told her that, well, I have an organization that I started. I don't have a youth program or anything. I can refer you to somebody, or I'll work with him and I just create a one-on-one program, just working with him, and I'd create a structured program for him. And that's what happened. I started meeting with him a couple of times a month, and that was in 2011 when I started working with him, or 2010. And I just built the program around him. And then I brought in another young man. And then we got in the Christmas parade. I had 1 million people reaching out to us after that, because that's the first time we were visible. And people want to get in the program. So I created a waiting list, and I tried to recruit mentors. I couldn't find people to help me mentor these young men, like to match them one-on-one. So I decided to take everybody off the wait list. When that next summer came around in 2011, I said, I just work with all these boys myself. And that's where it started. So that's how the youth program actually started. And from that, the organization just began to transition and transform. So God had a whole nother plan for what it is that Our Father's M.A.D was birthed for. I thought I was supposed to be doing something else, but I think that this process right here is probably even better, because we're sowing into a whole lot of young men now that they can be the ones who help close the gap and begin to set the examples for their peers and for their little cousins and, different people to be able to follow in their steps to make some better decisions when it comes to this fatherhood,
Yeah.
How many young people are you mentoring right now?
So in our youth program, we average anywhere from 25 to 30 kids in that program. But we also do a lot of different outreaches. So we have our education program as well. So we work with students K through 12, and that's girls and boys. And we also work with foster care, which that's where I met you at, Lindsay. We also work with foster care homes and work with youth there. We also have worked with Huntsville City Schools, working with students through mentoring programs. So even outside of what we do with that particular program that everyone knows about, there's a lot of outreach that we do as far as just going into the community. We may go to the Boys and Girls Club and work with them. I know last summer we worked over there with the Seminole Boys and Girls Club.
Right. So you talked about, obviously you're so, I love what, your wording, your title, Real Fathers Making a Difference. I love that from the get-go in this interview, you got right real with it, talking about abstinence and stuff like that. I'm like, that's what I love about you and always have. For you guys listening, LC and I met, I think, through nonprofit organizations meeting together and collaborating, probably Fred Whitlow, I don't know, whatever. And some of the local stuff here and our nonprofits are partnering together. Okay, for that, you talk about writing the book too, or wanting to write the book, but somewhere, okay, your passion had to start from somewhere deep within. So tell us your story, how you grew up, or what are things in your life that led you to be so passionate about this?
I don't know if it was my upcoming that kind of planted those seeds. Life was a little difficult for myself coming because my mother had a mental illness. She was a paranoid schizophrenic. So by the time we was in junior high school, we saw it developing. But once about the time I got to the 8th grade, I think she was like fully into her mental illness with no treatment and no help. And we didn't have a father, who was there to be able to intervene. We did have my grandfather, and we had aunts and uncles who, did what they could to support us and help us. But so really, we were just in survival mode. I don't think people really understand what we went through as for. When I say we, I mean myself and my younger brother. So we just didn't have I've always been that person who was probably trying to encourage people, in spite of what it is that I was going through. So coming up like that, as far as being being responsible for yourself. I mean, you talking about 4 years of high school where nobody even saw my report card. I had a younger brother. I would go to his school conferences. I mean, I was 14, 15 years old going to his conferences, making sure he's doing what it is that he's supposed to do. So, and I'm not even sure, I think that's just who it is that I am. That's who it is. That's the kind of character that, that's the person that God just made me. So it was more so natural for me to be in an element of being able to actually go out and support other people and help other people, because that's just who it is that I am. I'm not even sure if my circumstances actually could have hindered me probably from living a life to be able to do that. But I was so strong in the belief of being sure that one day that my mom would get better. So that means that we got to make sure we at least finish high school. There's certain things we want to make sure that we are that we've accomplished and done. So when she come out of this mental illness state, because she had lost touch with reality pretty much altogether. She don't remember much of the time that she was sick. I was a sophomore in college when she got better, and she don't even remember me really being in high school. She couldn't believe I was driving. Wow. So, and there's a lot to the story, and I know we got limited time, so I'm trying not to go too far into it because.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, let's do this. Let's break, and then we're gonna come back into that, and then he can go fully into it.
All right, let's go back. We're coming back, y'all. Come back. We're gonna hear the rest of the story.